Welcome to this edition of Fuel for Thought. I'm Kristen Valacia, Head of Automotive Advisory at IHS Markit. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues, Andre Divis, Head of the IHS Markit Medium and Heavy Commercial Vehicle Industry Service, Mark Hazel, Product Manager, Commercial Vehicle Market Reporting, and also special guest, John Morrison. John is currently CEO of J&M Strategic Insights, which provides strategic advice and consulting services to C-level executives for advanced technology, startup and venture companies. He also provides strategic advice for business partnerships, JVs, and M&A projects. Prior to this, John was president of WABCO Americas from 2015 until his retirement in December 2020. His career has also included holding the positions of Global Vice President, Vehicle Dynamics and Controls with WABCO, President and General Manager of Meritor WABCO. Morrison also held various leadership positions during a 15-year career with Dana Corporation, including General Manager, Plant Manager, and Global Director of Sales and Engineering. John, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kristen. Good to be here.
So with HDAW, the Heavy Duty Aftermarket Week upon us, as well as a very dynamic and active market situation across the commercial vehicle space, we're going to be talking today about industry data availability, access, its value, and how through leverage with technology, this allows for enhanced fleet and freight productivity, as well as new investment and revenue opportunities. So here at IHS Markit, data certainly gets us excited, but even more, what you can do with that data and what new opportunities it offers. So thinking about things like not just the data, but the proactive and predictive insights that can increase uptime, support safety and efficiency, and open new investment and business opportunities. There's really a lot to consider across the space that wasn't really a possibility just a few years ago, and certainly across the last few decades. So, John, starting with you, not speaking out of school here, we just mentioned you've been in the industry for a few years. So I'd like to start by asking you, what do you see as being the biggest change or changes over your career up to this point?
Sure. Well, I think that the biggest changes I would say would be, particularly in the trucking world, for example, how technology has really moved to the forefront of a business that was traditionally viewed as being non-technically oriented or more heavy metal, if you will. So when you look at the trucks and transportation today and their interface with the logistics world, technology has really pushed itself up in the forefront of thought, starting with safety technology maybe 10 to 15 years ago, and now working more into sort of logistics and supply chain management and a whole ecosystem. I think that's been really fascinating, and it's an area that I'm spending time in these days, post my WABCO career. I think on the automotive side, it's obviously similar. But I think when you look at sort of vehicle management strategies and how vehicles are managed, that was started a number of years ago, 20 years ago plus, and that's also moving into the trucking world. And I think those things are really quite exciting and in some ways a natural evolution, but one that surprises people sometimes in terms of how much technology now is really in the forefront of thought, both at a hardware level and a software level in the trucking business.
And along those lines, Andre or Mark, or Andre and Mark, how have we seen technology increasing the data availability and usability really across the industry, maybe, and how has it been influenced by electrification or connectivity more recently?
From a technology side, Kristen, I think a lot of it, it's just opened up the door to, telematics and the connected vehicle. So, we have all those different data points now that we're able to get off a vehicle, and at the end of the day, it's all about how can we help that fleet, improve their uptime and profitability. So, we're able to help them predict problems, what's coming on, help them with their service intervals and all things like that through various tools that we have available, in our commercial vehicle reporting.
Yeah, and I think on the forecasting side, it's really been reflected in what kinds of questions we're being asked and what people are asking us to track. Many people don't realize that today, John, you mentioned the transition that's happened technologically in the industry. And for example, many people don't realize that today, most of the diesel trucks that are sold newly, new vehicle sales around the world now are already reaching the EPA 7 or EPA 10 or comparable standards around the world. And that's just one of the things that we can help our customers understand in our data sets.
So, John, you've had, several direct industry relationships, but more recently in your current role, you have visibility into some really interesting businesses and, new technology, startups, et cetera. What are some of the examples you're seeing on how this, data and these capabilities are being leveraged to the benefit of a wide variety of industry participants?
Sure. I think that, what I find to be also interesting is the thought process at the fleet level in terms of the use of data and the use of technology and data to improve productivity, as we've talked about. And I was in a conversation with someone who was formerly part of a very large fleet, and we were talking about data transmission from vehicles. So if you look at today, trucks are definitely equipped to be able to transmit a tremendous amount of vehicle data, vehicle health data, status, that sort of thing. I'm more recently involved on the trailer side. One of my clients is Phillips Connect, who is really launching a smart trailer platform into the industry that enables quite a bit of actionable information on the trailers themselves, which is really a new part of the initiatives within the industry. But we were talking about that and talking about maintenance and uptime and how to improve that. And really the interesting insight was it wasn't so much about being able to get a vehicle to the right, workshop location with the right parts, that sort of thing. It was really geared more towards even preventing the need for that vehicle to have any kind of an unscheduled maintenance. So really component health type data, predictive type data, that is really now kind of moving into the forefront, where there's a realization you can get a lot of data off the vehicles, you can get a lot of information off the vehicles, but getting it to be really more proactive or predictive then really attacks this problem of keeping the driver in the seat on the road driving the vehicle versus increasing the convenience factor of going into the nearest workshop with the right parts. I mean, that's certainly important, but it was a different perspective that, that's all great, but, really if I can keep that driver in the seat driving, which makes total sense, because I'm monitoring the entire vehicle, truck and trailer, and able to be more predictive in how I do things, that seems to be where the focus is really shifting at this point.
Mm-hmm. And I think that leads to, so Mark, when we think about other, valuable data sources and some of the ones that John was mentioning, what are some of those use cases that we're seeing based on that proactive, predictive data?
I think what John says is a really good point, because, we're at the point now, for a while, everyone's wanted to figure out, what's the replacement rates on certain parts, or, what's how much inventory do I need to have, or what's the available market, how do I bring a new product into the market? But what John says is such a good point, because, we're even getting past that now to, like you mentioned, how do we, any unscheduled maintenance, how do we get that out of there? How do we accurately predict that? So I think that's a really good point that he brings up.
And I would say, if I may, Kristen, on that point, and to what Mark mentioned, that this is early days, right? So I don't want to overstate the maturity of it, but I will say that, with the sort of research and development that's being done on sensors, the ability now to consolidate and, put certain algorithms together, I think it's maturing enough where the potential is there, quite frankly. And I think will continue to be aggressively pursued in the future to capture that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And you've kind of answered this question, but I was going to ask you kind of, why are people or businesses willing to invest? And I know you're working more in the M&A and with the investment community. There's certainly understood value here, but why wasn't this done before? And what are still some of the challenges you're seeing to really maximizing the value? You mentioned early days. So what are you seeing that needs to be done to get us really all the way there?
Yeah, I think that again, it comes back to, in some sense, the technological maturity. In some sense, it's business maturity, as all these businesses are really dealing with a lot of different things coming at them. So if you look historically back in the mid 2000s, it was a lot of the investment and technology focus was simply to meet emission standards, right? I mean, to meet certain requirements that were coming from the US government, which typically drives a lot of investment and activity in fleets. Then the advent of safety technology coming on board, where from stability control through collision mitigation and the ability now to do more active sensing with video telematics, that came early because, again, it was such a low hanging fruit opportunity to be able to invest in technologies and invest in research on technologies that could enable that to operate at its fullest potential. I think that came to the forefront pretty quickly because many, fleets and businesses are self-insured. So reducing exposure, obviously had an immediate payback. And I think we, see the results in that. Then you move into I think the progression of mobile devices and how the mobile devices have become so much more prevalent, where basically every, truck operator has a mobile device and has the ability to do some level of computing, locally there. Then that, opens up the door for location services and, figuring out where everything is. I think that was a big deal. So these things just sort of progress along the lines of how the technology becomes available. And then certainly the backdrop you have behind that is electrification and autonomous, which present certainly big productivity opportunities in themselves. Electrification probably being the one that will really find itself sooner than autonomous. But they are big productivity opportunities. They are opportunities really for investing in making fleet operations operate more effectively and more profitably. So as those things come about, they kind of assume their own position and they draw their own kind of source of investment and startup and innovation. And then as things have moved forward, now I'm really being exposed to and hearing more about things like the financial technology and logistics technology investments that really connect into our mobile world, that I think are going to really start drawing a lot of attention, as some of these other things have in the past.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say that I thought of one personal anecdote when you were talking about the technology and the mobile devices, starting my career in logistics and being the lead logistics provider at an OEM assembly plant, and sitting on the back dock waiting for, the truck to show up with the parts in it that we needed right then and there. And, calling, the driver's mom, where is he? Have you seen him? Like trying to figure out where the parts were, and thinking about where we are today, how closely we can track the vehicles, the maintenance status, every detail, and then what we can do with that. And we've seen in other areas of our business where we have, for example, a shared sales database or different things on the light vehicle side that the industry really leverages. So Andre, when I think about ways that the entire industry could really benefit, the entire commercial vehicle industry could really benefit from sharing data, how realistic is that? Where do you think we're at in that process? Pros and cons from your perspective, and maybe from what you hear from people across the industry.
Well, I mean, I think that's also an interesting question. I think certainly the industry in various contexts and geographies already benefits from sharing data among the manufacturers, and obviously people are coming together, now at various large events to discuss the latest trends. But I think you're also seeing, on a kind of targeted, kind of case by case basis, maybe a willingness to share some data concerning some of these emerging areas, just for everybody's benefit, to kind of get a picture for how quickly things are taking off or which direction things might be heading in. I mean, that's also, the term early days was used, so it's still sort of early days, but I think we are going to see some, interesting types of cooperation to maintain visibility on the important trends.
And part of that sharing of data kind of leads us to standardization of data. And Mark, when we talk about efforts to standardize some of the data so that it can be communicated and shared and leveraged across the heavy duty industry. What are you seeing, and what steps do we still have to make? Do we see that happening the same way as it's been in light duty, for example?
Yeah, I think we're slowly seeing the trend, to more of a standardized coding, such as ACEs, where we're, able to get down to a part number level, on different makes and models. But the challenge with, medium heavy duty, and, one of the reasons that we're probably behind with that is the builds on those are so much more complex. You have all those different engine types that can go into a vehicle, the different chassis. And, we're at a point now with light vehicle where, because of that coding ability, we're able to tie replacement demand back to vehicles in operation. So we're able to tell, manufacturers or distributors, exactly where those parts are going. In the heavy duty world today at IHS, we have, very advanced algorithms and surveys that we're able to work with that help explain, demand is, for a brake or, an air management system, but we don't have that part number specific level detail, and I think looking into the future, that's really where we want to get to.
So final question from each of your perspectives, and we'll go Andre, Mark, and then John can wrap it up. So here's my final question. From each of your perspectives, you can pick whether you're glass half full or glass half empty here. What would be either your biggest concern as this continues, the industry continues to evolve, or what are you most excited about for the future in the areas where you're focused? So Andre, I'll let you start.
I think my answer is the same for both, Kristen. No, in all seriousness, I mean, John mentioned already. I mean, one of the big trends is obviously the pace of electrification, or actually not just electrification, but really the adoption of new propulsion technologies. Everybody thinks it's coming, but how quickly is it going to go? And sort of building on that, how fast is going to be the rollout of, some of the technologies beyond that, including vehicle automation. I think, as was said, those are huge opportunities for some of the supply base, the manufacturers, and also the fleets running the trucks. They're certainly going to be very transformative. Those are probably my biggest ones.
Okay, Mark?
I think for me, from a data standpoint, it's exciting to see where the industry is going. At the beginning of the call, we talked about, how much information we're able to pull off of those trucks, and now to be able to see where we can potentially take all of that, and then you tie in all the coding. I think we've still got a long ways to go, but it's very fascinating to see what we're able to do with data and how much smarter it's making us.
All right, John, bring us home.
Yeah, I think, Kristen, we've known each other for a while, but I'm a glass half full kind of person. And, I think it's just so exciting to me what is happening right now in terms of the generation of data from the technology, all the different technologies that we talked about, whether it's safety, propulsion, operator data, whatever. I mean, I think that the knowledge that we have is solving really two main problems in our business. One is safety, which I think we've made such huge strides there, and all of those data sets and all the information that we've learned about that is contributing to one day being able to more autonomously operate vehicles, which again I think enhances the whole safety aspect of what we're doing. But also now, when you look at getting the full view of truck trailer combination in terms of, part component performance, application performance, things like that, and you're attacking a problem where I heard a few years ago that the average truck driver only actually drives 6 hours a day. There's such a huge productivity benefit from that. And we all have been suffering through this last supply chain crisis and, finding a solution to the shortage of drivers and really being able to optimize capacity. It's really a wide open space to make improvement to the industry that I think is going to help us, both from a cost perspective as well as a safety and job satisfaction perspective. This is why I'm excited about that. And I think it's really going to be something to be a part of in the next years to come.
Really interesting. Great insights. Thank you all. John, thank you so much for joining us today. Mark and Andre, appreciate your time. And with that, we'll be back with more Fuel for Thought next month. Come see us at our booth at HDAW Tuesday and Wednesday, January 25th and 6th. We'll also be moderating a panel on how the industry is managing the supply chain challenges John mentioned on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central on the Gaylord Texan Resort and Convention Center. And to opt in to our newsletter that provides more information on this topic and others, please visit ihsmarkit.com/auto newsletter.